Hey everybody, it's Ted from Mob Rules. So to follow up on some ShadeSpire stuff, I'm going to start working on some Chaos guys. I'm going to try and take you from the very beginning, from all the reds, on up to a painted guy. So this is going to take a few days to do. I'm going to try and do just little pieces here and there, partially because we're going to start with green stuff. Some of these guys are doing pretty good, but some of them have weird lines where they come together. So we'll go ahead and take care of that. It should be really easy. And I'm going to show you a couple little tricks and suggestions. So we'll do that, and then we'll move on over to painting them. That won't take quite as long, but it does take about 24 to 48 hours for green stuff to set. So we'll have to wait a little bit for that. Anyway, let's go take a look at that. And if you guys are really excited about it, but not as excited about Stormcast, no, I mean the other way around. You're more excited about Stormcast, but less excited about Chaos, but still excited about the entire thing, then ask for Stormcast, and maybe we'll do some Stormcasts as well. But right now we're just going to focus on Chaos because I feel that they're going to require more technical savvy than the Stormcast. So anyway, let's go take a look. All right, so let's see. The first one I want to start on. Oh gosh, here we go. Yeah, this guy. His chest is, I don't know, I think it was a bad autopsy, and they brought back his corpse. So, yeah, we gotta fix that. So first off, we gotta glue these guys together and start there. All right, real quick, I have to confess that I did not glue them down to the bases. And I don't know, that's just in case I have to get in there underneath them. I have to take the base off. It might help out. Typically, I like to glue everything together and then mess with it, because I figure that if you can't see it, you can't. If you can't see it, I'm sorry. If you can't get to it, you can't see it typically. But I don't know. I'm gonna spend a little bit more effort on these guys. All right. So now we have our green stuff all kneaded up. Let's take a little bit. See what we can do. All right, so who are we going to work on? We're going to work on chest cavity. I'm just going to take a tiny little bit. And let's see. All right, so we're going to just get rid of a lot of the remainder. And just kind of barely smear it into his chest. And then when we get the basic shape, we're going to switch tools. Okay. Yeah, I think we're about there. Now here's the thing with green stuff that's kind of, if you're used to working with clay, I mean, if you took an art class when you were a kid, you've worked with Play-Doh. The thing with green stuff is, I think we have a tendency to think that it acts like clay, to where you can compress it and compact it. So if it's not where you want it to be, you just mush it. I mean, I'm sorry, if there's excess, you just mush it until it's like condensed enough to where it's in the shape you want. But with green stuff, it doesn't condense. It's as dense as it's going to be. So what ends up happening is you push on one side to condense it, it ends up smushing out other places. It's kind of, I don't know, think of it like water or something. Okay, so now I have this the shaping tool. This is a medium density. Let's see, this is called a color shaper. I think it's also a burnishing tool is what I think I've also heard it referred to. It has a nice like rubber tip to it. So the nice thing about this is as you push it around and get your green stuff in there, it's not going to leave those like hard edges that your scalpels and stuff like that are going to leave. So it really gives it kind of that a nicer, smoother, organic kind of feel, shape. So yeah, you can kind of see right there where, and they're not too expensive. I mean, it's definitely like a art supply kind of a thing, but you do that and it's gonna step your game up. A lot of professional sculptors use these. Actually picked this idea up from Tom Mason, who's a semi-professional sculptor. So there you go. Yeah, if you play Tyranids or anything, like this is the way to go. This seriously looks like I got a little cleanup to do there. And then we'll we'll get on to the priming. All right, guys, so they are primed. You might notice real quick, I'm not really hitting them. Actually, this guy I probably should have hit a little bit more. I'm not doing a full coat. Primer, I think in the gaming world, we oftentimes use it as a base coat, and that's really not what primer is for. It's a contact paint. You know, it being a certain color or not, or one color or another is helpful. If you're trying to override white with a light color, you know, you probably want to go with black. If you're trying to override black with a light color, you probably should start with white or gray. But really, you know, you start adding too much primer and you start losing some of the physical details. So we're trying to avoid that. I know in the gaming world it's not as important, but you start going masterclass and then it's an issue. So as far as I'm concerned, you may as well start young doing it right. So what I'm going to do now is hit some of these guys with a base coat. I do start with black just because I feel that I'm a bit sloppy with my paint sometimes, and so I would rather have black recesses that I can't hit with a brush than white recesses or red recesses or whatever. So usually just start with black and build up. Although I have friends that, and a Golden Demon winner who would rather start with white and build up to a darker color. And that's okay. But anyway, so I'm gonna hit that real quick. What I'm gonna use is testers. Yeah, it's not the best paint in the world. It's cheap, and it actually does a pretty good job. It does come out a little bit semi-gloss, which isn't that awesome, but it's not horrible either. We are going to hit this with a purity seal afterwards, so it's not that big of a deal. So typically I get their white. Sometimes their white works out, but sometimes it doesn't. White is really hard. I really haven't been able to find like a white that I really airbrush white that I really like. So I just end up taking Model Masters regular ass paint and adding water or thinner to it to get it where I want it to. Otherwise, you end up spraying a whole bunch. So my Iwata Neo, you know, I played with Sotar 2020 and all that, but I like this guy for the money. I usually go cheap, which kind of pisses some of my friends off, and then after that, like if I do something enough or end up breaking the cheap thing, then I go pro. So this was my step up from my Pache. So it has a nice fine tip. I like the control, and that's it. All right. So for the armor, we're gonna start with this Model Air. It's Armor Brown. Do a quick mix. So this is gonna go in there with the black. I'm not being too accurate with it, so it's okay that it's not pure Armor Brown. Like I said, I do want a darker color. Now we're ready for some red. Ugh, looks a little gory. Not in a cool sense. Okay, so I'm using just red. I think that's Vallejo red. All right, so now I'm going to add a little bit of light red. I'm going to blow out all the junk. And I think what we'll probably end up doing is we'll end up adding just a little bit of yellow to it. Just to lighten it up. I think that's, give it a good shake. They have little agitators for these things, like little ball bearings and stuff. I probably should get one just to drop. So that was probably about 4-to-1 ratio. Let me do the back pedally thing. Yeah, it's kind of like a nice fiery orange. Okay, let's see. So we'll just do the top of his helmet for now. Looks like a little watery still. Okay, I'll just hit a few spots. There we go. Yeah. Actually, I don't feel very comfortable with the way it's turning out. Eek. Okay. Now his head is dry. Yeah, it's coming out a little wet. Alright, so I like it a little bit. We're going to keep it a little bit dark. It's going to really contrast with our skin. Alright, let's see. Where do we leave off with this guy? There we go. So just get that part of the side plate. Kind of come at an angle right here just to get the edge. And then, let's see, get that shoulder plate again. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to put a little air on there just to dry it off a little faster. Alright, add a little bit more. Air. Yeah, I think that's coming along. We'll do some edge highlights, just some light. I don't usually like edge highlights, but I think we'll add some here. Thankfully, there's a little bit of gold trim to work with. Oh crap! It kind of pulled in the edge there. Oof. Some glaze. We can fix that. So where else are we? Yeah, there we go. Come on, an angle. Oh, getting in the edge again. Pulling in the edge. Alright, got a little heavy with that. Okay, just get that edge. And let's see, last guy. Actually gonna get the bottom of his leg, because I think the light will hit that a little bit. Oops. And then kind of come down. There we go. Looks like it might be raccooning a little bit. Alright, so I'm using some Model Masters acryl. This stuff is really nice. This is kind of a flat black. It's actually a little bit old, so it's a bit gummy, so I'll add just a little bit of water to it. But I really like it. It has a lot of nice, there's a lot of nice pigment count. It goes on relatively thin, except for when it's all gummy like this. And I just really like the consistency. So I'm just going to kind of touch up some of the pants a little bit where we oversprayed. Really, I probably shouldn't have been as thorough earlier. Actually, it looks like I wasn't that thorough. So then we'll go in and we'll airbrush a little bit more once this is done. Now we're going to make a little bit of gray. I'm going to use a little bit of this Model Masters black that we used earlier. And then a little bit of flat white. It doesn't take a whole lot. So it's almost like a 1-to-1 ratio. We're going to bump it up in a second. So what we'll do is we're going to start with just a little bit of this. There we go. So we're going to take this at an angle so we don't get the, so I don't hit his shin pad. We're just going to go just right down the knee. And then we're going to do the back of the leg a little bit. Okay. And then I'm just going to do just at the knee area. Okay. This guy's going to be problematic. We'll have to tape him. Alright. Get the butt cheeks. Use my thumb to kind of cover up his knee pad. And just do right down at the edge of the quad. So you see kind of what I'm going for. Alright, and then do the back of the leg. Probably wasn't giving you a very good angle, huh? The boot. So you're going to find that some of the spray is going to go into the recesses a bit, which is not ideal, but we can use some glaze to kind of fix that. Got a little bit more white, big old dollop in there. You know what? I might need a little bit more. We want this to be really exaggerated. The nice thing about this white is it's a little runny. I don't know if I just didn't mix it up well or what. Okay, I think we're about there. All right, do a little back pedal. Blast it out. There we go. So we're just gonna get the edges, get more of an extreme highlight. Oh shit! Looks like I got a little sideways action. So I'm gonna clean the tip out and then we'll get back to it. All right, so now we're gonna use a Reaper Master Series Fair Skin. I'm gonna be using a glaze over this. So we're gonna start with that and just paint some skin. And naturally do 2 thin coats. Okay, now that we got these guys taken care of, let's see, show you a good example. So you're gonna notice that with some of them, it's not a solid coat. What I kind of tried to do was do some real basic highlighting. So it's a little bit splotchy. Actually, it looks like I need to touch up the back of his head. But I tried to make it a little bit splotchy and predominantly in the shaded areas. So this is kind of like some pre-highlighting. So that's kind of it. So I really try to look down on the model because I'm a judgmental bastard, but and pick out some of the highlights and then kind of leave like under the arm and the stomach a little bit like that. So if you look at skin, it's not usually like it is blotchy. I mean, I would quickly use myself as an example, but I'd feel ashamed. So that's kind of it. So we're also gonna. So what we'll do is we'll end up putting some shade on here. And then we'll pick out some highlights again. But for now, what we're gonna do is hook up the, oh my gosh, look at this, a Citadel color. See, I do play with Citadel colors sometimes. Yeah, so Lead Belcher. I love the Citadel metallics. So, I play with a lot of different brands, but I think they have the best metallics. So let's go ahead and hit that. And then we'll follow up with some gold. So this is kind of the start. Okay, so now that we got those guys silvered up, let's hit the highlights. We're gonna do just like a little light dry brushing. You can use Runefang Steel. If you happen to have some Mithril Silver, this stuff is the business. It's a little bit lighter than the Runefang and has a little bit more substance to it. So yeah, let's do it. I don't have much left. It's hard to find these days, so like non-existent. But yeah, just do just a light. I think this guy's the first guy we did. Yeah, just a little bit. It just barely hits just barely hit the edges. And that should make it pop a little bit. We're gonna go over it with a little bit of Nuln Oil, but do this and then come back. Gold of sorts. I was just about to use some GW Shining Gold and realized that it's a little old. It's like 25 years old. So let's go ahead and hit some of this trim. Where's a good place to start? Yeah, just like right along there. So we're looking for all the Khorne symbols, looking for the edges of armor. There they are. Lots of Lots of little gold trim all over the place. Now what we're gonna do is try to come up with like a nice medium. Oh, what is it gonna be? It's gonna be like a medium grayish or something like that. So I'm gonna go with this dusk skin. I'm actually gonna add just a slight touch of this that fair skin. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as the base color for the axe handles. So, but just like a nice medium gray would be perfect. Okay, so this is going to be kind of like the old wood. Here, there we go. We'll use this guy right here. And yes, I am a brush licker. All right, you ready? GW product. Oh! So the Nuln Oil, this is the good stuff. This will tie in all of our armor together. So start with, we're gonna start with the silver and the gray. We're gonna hit the gray with a little bit more, with some browns later on to give it more of a wood kind of feel. But this is it. And we're mostly targeting the recesses and the less visible sides. I'm sorry, the undersides, because it's going to act as something of a shadow. I'm going to kind of hit up some of the bolts a little bit. I figure this will kind of look like grease. We're going to get in and hit that skull later on with something else. Sometimes we add just a little bit of water to feather it. That gets it a nice fade. All right, there we go. Yeah, I like how the axe is coming out. It's looking like metal. All right, let's hit this guy with some Iraqi sand. And this is, let's see, this guy right here. We're not being too exact. We got the skulls, we got the earth. Now we're gonna go ahead and hit it with some Agraxer shade. We're gonna just focus on the sand and the skulls down there. So let's do that. All right, we're gonna try a little bit of linen white that we used before on the skulls. And we're just gonna dry brush the bases. So it should look like that. All right, good too. So with a little bit of the extra linen white, with a little bit of the extra linen white, I'm going to go through and pick out some details and make some texture adjustments on the skulls. You don't have to be too exact with this, but have at it. All right, let's go ahead and do some leather and get right to it. I think we're coming down to the final stretches. I'm going to kind of mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to use this dark skin and tan shadow. What I'm thinking is for large leather patches, we'll probably do the darker color. And then for leather strips, we'll probably do the lighter, but you know, do it how you feel. Like if it starts to complement the color or whatever, then you're good. It's just, you know, whatever it is you're going on, try to do the opposite. If it's a light color, use a darker. If it's darker color, use light. So on, so you can kind of see the pop. All right, let's do it. There we go. Strap, the leather band, light leather. So now what I would like to do, this guy has some hair. So we want to put some hair in there. And then I think there's going to be some other, so I'm going to use I'm trying to keep it simple and keep down the amount of colors I use. So we're going to use some of the Iraqi sand in the hair on this guy. And then I think we might also, let's see, there's some more details in here. I think there's a lot of straps. So like all these, I'm sorry, banding, like on the hilts and some of the knives and everything. So we're going to go back with some of the white linen, linen white, and hit some of that. And then I think we're just about ready for the wash. All right, you ready? You ready? Another GW product. All right, Reikland Flesh Shade. This is, we're gonna do a bit of a wash. I know it's a shade, but, all right, so now we're just gonna slather it. You know what, we need a bigger brush. Slather it all over. And kind of make sure that the recesses, or I'm sorry, the shadows of the model are accentuated most. Now we're probably going to do a couple different washes, so yeah, just bear with. Tutorial. All right, so we got some bandages here. I'm going to take a little bit of this that linen white, and we're going to just kind of touch up the edges a little bit. We don't have to be super exact. You're just kind of making little dabs on the ends. We want them to look kind of tattered a little bit. Oops, looks like we got some on the pant leg. Does that kind of look like it? So this is a little bit of micro texturing. And do that with the handles too. All right, so we got a couple details. There's these little horns on some of these guys. I don't exactly, I think what we'll do is go red with those. But then I also noticed that there's a little bit of fur down here. So I figure what we could probably do is I'm gonna mix a little bit of this. I got that brown orange, that auburn shadow. And then we'll take a little bit of Iraqi sand, hit the fur around his leg. And then I'm thinking we're gonna find nice red for that, those horns. So it's kind of a 1-to-1 ratio. You know what? This actually looks like it could make a nice horn color. So let's go ahead and use that for the horn too. Add a little bit of water. Now, while it's still a little bit wet, we're going to add a little bit more of that Iraqi sand to the mixture. And let's see. And then we'll go in and use that as a highlight. And then change brushes with a smaller fine detail brush. Let's pick out a few of these little fur bits. Yeah. I think it's going to come along. All right, finish that up. Come right back. Now that we hit that up with some color, let's go ahead and Agrax Earthshade those guys a little bit. Start with the ruffle fur. And then we'll hit the spikes. So here what we're doing is we took a little bit of the dark shadow, work it in while it's wet, and then we take some the tan shadow, or dark skin and tan shadow, and work it in. We're going to do like a quick wet blend, just to bring out the toe a little bit. A little detail there. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that with the rest of these. And a little bit on the heel too. A little bit on the sole. There we go. Do that with the rest of them. Alright, now we're going to blend back in some of our highlights. So we're using that fair skin, kind of bringing it back in just to the raised areas. I'm sorry, to the highlighted areas. So there's kind of a difference. Like a raised area might be something that protrudes, such as the pecs, but the highlight area would be where the light kind of comes down. So we're doing, you know, like a little bit on the brow, the top of the skull, top of the ear, the nose, any place where the light would kind of strike. Right underneath the eye. Looks like you got a little too much there. There we go. Right there on the pec a little bit. Kind of a little bit of water to your brush. Blend it in. We're just kind of smoothing out that Reichland flesh shade a little bit. Looks like we're getting a little too drastic. So we're going to feather it. Switch to a little bit finer brush. And we're going to start hitting the, we're going to get the face a little bit. See if we can focus in a little bit more. The nose. Alright, just work it in. Alright, so this guy right here has this little skull helmet thing. Let's go ahead and hit that with some Agrax Earthshade, just to kind of differentiate it, because right now the Reichland is kind of toning it into the same values as the skin. I'm just going to darken a little bit, and then we're going to pull the contrast out with some more of that linen white. While we're waiting for that, let's. I'm going to do some hair, and I noticed that our pirate captain here has black hair, so I'm going to use the dusky skin color. That's this guy right here, and we're going to hit some of the finer points of the hair. I didn't shake it up very well. And then we're going to Nuln Oil the crap out of it. Get the beard. Alright, switch brushes. Get in and get his mustache. Alright, so we did a really weak layer, so the nice thing is we can kind of hit a second time to lighten it, and this will be like a highlight. Let's get the, it looks like it kind of comes in as a beard. Looks like the mold gets a little soft on the edges. There we go. Okay, get this guy's hair, and then we'll call it good. Okay, now that the skull is dry, let's go ahead and hit it with some of that linen. We're just gonna kind of hit the recesses, or I'm sorry, the top. Just kind of blend it in a little bit with some water / spit. Got a little guy. Do a little bit of edge highlights. Bring it up a little bit. It's gonna be a little bit dramatic around the eyes. A little bit of water, blend it in. Blend it. There we go. I'm feeling a little bit better about that. Let's see, bring it around to the back. Just kind of just do a quick around the edge. And then blend that. A little bit of spittle. So you gotta kind of be fast with a lot of this wet blending. It's really a lot of, I mean, you're eating paint, but look at that. Oops. Yeah. I think it turned out really nice. Oh yeah, so while we're at it, let's go ahead and hit some eyes. I'm gonna use that, a little bit of that linen white. And here's the thing, like I don't get like too crazy with it. Oh God, this guy's eye is already crazy. Usually I just put a dollop in the corner of the eye. And maybe the other corner. That's all it takes. Like, I don't even go with a pupil or anything, just that's it. I gotta fix this eye, but yeah, just hit that. So we're gonna hit this, do a little bit of that light silver with that mithril silver or runefang silver. A couple little scratches. And then he has some buckles like around his neck. Looks like the runefang silver didn't quite get in that groove. So we'll have to remember to hit that. Or I'm sorry, not the runefang silver, but the Reikland flesh shade. And then, oh man, this is the part that I'm really looking forward to. I'm gonna do some battle damage along this guy. Just kind of chump it up a little bit. All right, and just find all little silver details like that. I think there's little spikes like this guy. And go to town. Nuln oil for the win. That was pretty enthusiastic for the win. All right. I'm gonna drown this guy in it. This is gonna take several layers. So we want it to go from gray to black ultimately. All right, let that dry. We got the last layer of Nuln oil on. A little glossy. I'm gonna go back and feather a little bit of the dusky skin in. Those highlights. Just pull some of the black up, pull the gray down. And then do that up top a little bit. Some of the edges. Yeah, it doesn't take much. Doesn't take much. Right up at the top. Then we'll add like a little bit of that white to the gray. Just lighten it just a little bit. Gonna go back into the beard and hit it just a little bit. to the hair. There we go. Get him. Just a little bit. All right, let that dry. Just go ahead and make little slashing motions with that light gray. Almost like little cross hatches. And do it on the butt. Can you see that? So, just a little bit of texture right there. All right, so we got the little bit of tan, a little bit of white, a little bit of the dusky skin. And I'm going to start making some marks on the leather. And do that a few more times, and you're good. So close. This is one of the last steps. Teeth. Let's go ahead and just dab a couple little teeth in there. All right, get the rest of them. All right, so this is the secret sauce, guys. This is it. We are down to the end. We have one step after this. So we're gonna do some pigments. Vallejo pigment, oxide, fresh rust. So just dab your brush on there a little bit. Grab one of these guys and just kind of get it around his boots a little. This is gonna show up as it's not going to be so exciting on this guy because I think he has those bandages. This is going to kind of be the dust from traveling the wastelands. You blow it off, and then kind of gives you a little dirtier color. It's faint, but I'll do this a little bit, and then we'll do the rims. Make sure to get in his beard, maybe around his mouth a little bit. That's kind of his jam, both literally and figuratively speaking. And brush it off a little bit. There we go. Oh, it's gonna be good. Oh, naturally we have to get it on his axe, right? Yeah, this stuff is awesome. Doing those hands. You just choked that guy out. And I'm having so much fun with this. There we go. Bam, done. What? Chaos Black? Let's ram them. Here we go, guys. Here's the last of them. A little blood coming down from his mouth. But yeah, I'm very happy with them. I'll slow down a little bit. Yeah, I think they came out really nicely. I think they have a nice sense of realism and just enough eccentricity to the color variation.
I'm pretty happy with them. So they're all ready. Tomorrow we're going to demo at a local game store. And these guys will be the highlight. All right, next up, Stormcast. I swear it'll be a lot faster and easier.